Hello, Hajiya Fatima. Hello, Hajiya Fatima.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, this is Opeifa
Yes,
Olasunkanmi. Let me know
yes.
when I can start. Or what's the where
Yeah,
are we,
I will
please?
introduce you and then we can start.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. Okay, so welcome, Black Belts. Good evening. Thank you for joining today's session. Today we have an award-winning teacher, one of our Black Belts, Mr. Olasunkanmi Opeifa. He is an edutainer. That means somebody who uses entertainment to try to make teaching and learning fun. He likes to use poetry, music, songs, dance steps, games, and ICT integration to promote teaching and learning. He was the 2018 Multina Teacher of the Year. He works in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in Karu Secondary School. He has won many awards. Maybe he can talk to us about some of his other accomplishments later, but we are honored and delighted to have Mr. Olasunkanmi Opeifa talk to us today about how our culture impacts our teaching and learning. Over to you, Mr. Olasunkanmi Opeifa.
All right, let me just show my face for some time, and then after a while, I will turn it off. We may not even need to see me because I will be sharing my screen. Thank you very much, Hajiya Fatima. Okay, she said she talked about my awards. I think once you search the name online, I'm humbled to say that you will see all the awards. But in 2018, I won the 2018 Multina Teacher of the Year, and 2020 Top 10 Global Teacher Prize, and so many other awards like that. And I think the interesting part of the award is that I'm also a black belt. The first time I appeared on this stage, let me call it a stage, I was just a friend of 1 million teacher, just talking from afar. But now it's a wonderful privilege to say that I am a full member of the house, a very proud one for that matter. And in the last more than 1 year now, years now that we have been together, more than 1 year we've been together, in our own organization, in collaboration with 1 million teachers, have produced close to, if not more than 500 black belts. And we are proud to associate ourselves with 1 million teachers. Interestingly, in the FCT, people don't know the difference between the phenomenon and 1 million teachers. Just like Akim will say, we are just one. So that's so many things about us. But tonight we are looking at things from a different angle. We are not here to talk about the 1 million teachers or the phenomenon, but we're here to talk about something very unique, something different, something that we all face all the time. I mean, something that I'm facing now, something you are facing now, and that is how culture influence our education. And I hope that somewhere along the line we'll be able to play a game with this, just like as I was introduced that I I love entertainment. I am an advocate of entertainment. I believe when learning is not fun, then it is not worth it. It is not worth learning if it is not fun. So whatever you want to do in the classroom, forget your frownness, forget how serious you are. Please introduce fun all the time to your class, and you see that you have fantastic students everywhere. I believe that fun-based learning is the king of differentiation. But we are going to come to that one some other time, hopefully. So I'm going to be sharing my screen, and if you can hear me, just give me some thumbs up. Go to the emoji. Just use any form of emoji you can see there, the best you like. I always love the hug one, but unfortunately I can't see it. So I'm going to give myself congratulations emoji. Okay, this beautiful one. There are heart emoji. Yeah, there are other one. Nobody has given me heart emoji. I'm watching though. Okay, thank you, boss. I did. All right, that's the first person I'm seeing. Sumeyo Aya Okoli, thank you. Ruth Eagle, thank you. Email by Joma. Oh, come on. I feel loved. I feel loved. Thank you, Fatima. Everybody. I'm overwhelmed. Thank you very much. I'm really overwhelmed. Thank you for the pump of it. Everybody's coming in. All right, so let's quickly start. I think, Aja, how many minutes do I have, please?
You have, let's say, 45 minutes, and then we'll have 15 minutes for Q&A.
Oh, brilliant. All right. So while we're doing Q&A, I can quickly use the opportunity to prepare to finish my entertainment part of it. Thank you very much. So as you are joining in, kindly mute your microphone because it will be a wonderful time with all of us together. I want to enjoy every bit of this session with everyone. Please, Mr. Sanusi Maruf, kindly mute your microphone. Thank you very much. I'm going to be acting as the host and at the same time moderator at the same time. Thank you. So I'm about to share my screen now. Hopefully that I can pick my screen from this slide in here. Can't find it. I want to share the whole window and the entire screen so I can see everybody at the same time. But unfortunately, I can't see that. Okay, anyway. So I need to share my window. 1 minute, please. All right, let me just do some housekeeping so that I will be confident enough to share my screen. So. I'm perfectly with you. It's just taking some time for my screen for the computer to accept me clicking on my screen. So if we have prayer warriors in the house, you can join me in prayer. Okay, all right. Sorry, I'm also not used to Google Meet like Microsoft Teams. Okay, I got it now. Yes. Okay, those who understand are now laughing. So I go to the screen. I mean, people who know me should know, say this is unlike you. All right, so now finally I'm there. Okay, so I mean, this is where you met me. So we're going to just continue together from here. All right, thank you very much. I believe you can see my screen. If you say yes, if you give me thumbs up, I can't see your thumbs up anymore because I cannot see anything from here. I thought there will be an overlap. So, but maybe Fatima can just help me confirm if my scene is a bit visible and I can move on from here now. Is my screen visible, please?
Yes, we can hear it. We can see it.
Okay, I can recognize that voice. That's Mr. Togbe. All right. So quickly,
Yes,
let me.
see your screen. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. So yes, quickly we want to look at cultural influences on education, how our culture, how the way we see life is influencing education. I think I wish I want to be seeing people's responses, but no problem then. So whatever we see is what we get today. All right, so you agree with me that culture plays a crucial role in shaping education? And diversity in the classroom, you agree also that enriches learning and foster a more inclusive environment. However, this quote here is only meant for that teacher that is a core professional who understands how culture is actually seen as a blessing, how diverse culture is seen as a blessing. To some people, it's a big problem. So this is an experience. How many of you went to school in a community where you have a majority of a particular tribe, and then we have some minorities of some tribe, and then you give those tribes some names, such that I remember in my primary school there was this friend of mine, Badawi is his name. I don't know where it came from, but I think Badawi was just his name. I can't pick it, but it's from the northern part of Nigeria. Now, if you school in Lagos State, Ogun and some other western part like that, you realize that you call them Omomola, in your classroom, and then you call them Omomola. And then if they were the Igbos in your classroom, you call them Omo Igbo. And then the Omo Igbo thing is not that you are just saying that they are from the eastern part of Nigeria, but you are already tagging them. Now imagine now those people are not from your country and they are from other countries. I mean, you can imagine what is going on. Imagine, for instance, now the battle of jollof rice between Nigeria and Ghana, and the battle of prominence, African giant nature between Nigeria and South Africa. And you find yourself in a country where all these people are gathered. I mean, you have a South African in your class, you have a Ghanaian in your class, and you are a teacher as a Nigerian, or probably you're a Ghanaian teacher, and you have a Nigerian in your classroom, you have a South African in your classroom. And all these interesting, whether it's like you can use this mic. Thank you. Okay, you have all this in your classroom, all these categories of people in your classroom. You can imagine the stress you want to go through where you are trying to balance the quarrel of jollof rice between a Nigerian student and a Ghanaian student. Or you want to cut back with the current beauty pageant issue between the Nigerian and South Africa. So if you don't know how to handle a beautiful case like this, it becomes a serious case in your hand. Let me give another example of a typical one. I have a friend, a student of mine. His name is M-O-W-O-N. That's his surname. I mean, you want to write it down or probably imagine it spelled again. M-O-W-O-N. And that is name, I want to believe in the culture, means something very fantastic and beautiful, according to the culture. But if you take that name a little bit into English culture, and then you don't know how to pronounce the W very well, and you decide to change the W for R, you can see where the problem is again. I imagine a student now wants to bully him in the class. They will need to use that. I don't want to use my mind to say it. Probably you are getting what I'm talking about now. Where if somebody's surname, which is M-O-W-O-N, the surname is M-O-W-O-N, is now twisted around to mean M-O-R-O-N. You know, it rhymes. So, but that is a name that's coming from a cultural angle. However, by the time it gets to another culture, it's having another name. Now, imagine you're in a classroom you are teaching, and the boy has to burst into tears and see what they are calling me. Let me give a final example of how interesting your classroom can be, where you have diverse culture. My first son is called Phronesis. Phronesis. I mean, that's the name. I realized that I would, by my nature is I like to just be very outstanding. I like to do things differently. So I realized that if I continue naming my children some interesting names, because I believe in picking different names from different places now, they may suffer bullying or non-understanding by their mates in the class, even from teachers. I had to stop and start using clearer names, okay, than that. Do you know what? This is my son. I have to build him very well at home, to tell him the meaning of the name. The name means practical wisdom. So I have to ring this in his head very well, so that even when they want to bully him with it, they will tell you because you don't understand it, you will cherish it, you will want it. You know, I have to do that a lot. Imagine I don't do that for him, and he gets to school, and the teacher is teaching photosynthesis one day, and they said to call him photosynthesis instead of phronesis. I mean, these are the things we've got to know. I mean, different forms, different. I have somebody calling maybe phronology. I mean, different. Florences, all fluorescents, all sorts of names like that. But a form of bully. But I mean, this song we have built to see life from a very positive angle. So that's how diverse culture can be. So from the positive angle of culture, imagine now you now want to represent the entire Africa, and you enter into your classroom and you see everybody represented wearing different attires, and it's so colorful. That's how beautiful it is. Imagine you are teaching a language and you are looking for someone that will translate what they call a White House, for instance, the word White House in Spanish, and you have a Spanish speaking. Is there somebody talking to me? All right. You have a Spanish speaking child in your classroom who is telling you that White House means Casablanca. You know, another person is telling you in my language, in Twi, in Ghana, it means this. Another person is telling you in Zulu is this. You know, the beauty of language will come up in your classroom. So it all depends on how you see it, and this is still culture there. So let's move on quickly. Please, I will appreciate anybody who is joining us to mute this because I can't even see you from here anymore. I can only see my own screen. So let's look at culture. What is culture? To you, what is culture? I see culture as a total way of life. You must have seen culture from different definitions, okay? So let's take culture to the totality of how we see life, how we behave, how we dress, how we drink, every part, everything about us. I have this belief growing up, and I don't know where I got it from, that a man cannot be separated from his background. You agree with me? A man cannot be separated from his background. Your culture is your background. No matter how much you want to run away from it, you cannot be separated from it. And I put today that it's either you are in alignment with your culture or you are deliberately working against your culture, one of the two, but you can't be separated. You are fighting that battle forever, or you are in alignment totally with your culture as a teacher. So as a teacher, we need to first of all get this understanding, and that's what I'm going to be doing today. I want to build a level of understanding first in this class about culture generally. Then we'll now go into how culture affects our classroom. So you are welcome to the master class of culture and education once again. So what is culture? Is we said it's a what? A total way of life. I don't want to go into a full definition of it. The norms, the values, the behavior, and everything. You know, everything that represents you as a person. So culture can be divided broadly into two. We have macro culture and the micro culture. Sociology student and social studies student will agree with me. The macro culture is a very big one I've been mentioning, okay? You are from South Africa, you are from Rwanda, you are from Kenya, there's a general culture there. You are from Ghana, you are from Congo, there's a general culture, that's a macro culture. We agree that, okay, an average Nigerian, when you watch our movies, you realize that we say, oh, in everything. Everybody come, oh, we are going, oh, it is time, oh, mute your mic, oh, don't turn on your camera, oh, you know, it has that, oh, and everybody in Africa generally have agreed that, okay, an average Nigerian, if you want to know them, you know that they must add the sound O to everything they say. That's our macro culture. Let's put it that way. That becomes our mannerism, our macro culture. People, Yoruba, Hausa, everybody tends to have that mannerism to an extent. Now, there is what we now call the micro culture. For instance, the Blackbelts family. We have our micro culture. We believe you are outstanding teacher. We believe you do things in a particular way. We believe you do things differently. In your school, in your community, in your family, there's what's called micro culture that represents your value. Like I did my son publicly one day. I think I spanked him or I shouted at him. He did something very annoying. And somebody walked up to me and said, "Why are you doing that to him?" He didn't know I was the father anyway. So I turned to, the lady, I turned to her and I said, "He flouted the family culture. He flouted the family value." The woman looked at me and could not say a word again, and she walked away. Now, because the boy that I said shouldn't do that thing understood why that happened to him immediately. Because there is a family culture, there is a family value. And that one is what? Micro culture. Probably at the macro culture, beating publicly is not allowed. But in our own micro culture, spanking, we tend to see it as a form of correction. This is just within a lax or a very, very elastic way of saying that anyway. So that is microculture. What you do within a small community that is just acceptable, a smaller specific cultural group that exists within a larger or dominant one. So the dominant one is called what? Macro, and the smaller one where we all function is called micro. So let's quickly move on to element of culture. Please, we are going somewhere with this background. Every culture has what we call elements. The elements are broken into about four. I have three here. I'll mention the fourth one. We have the people. These are the elements. No culture exists without the people. Your classroom with a microculture. You there as a teacher, you are a person. The students you have there are people. So they are the ones that shape the value, the belief. It is because of them you have this culture over time. Let me give two examples of classroom. I'm already jumping into classroom now. When it comes to classroom management, if you do not have cultural understanding, you are likely to fail as a teacher. I don't want to really jump into education part of it, but let's just take everything pari passu now. I tested something 2-3 years ago with 2 classrooms in my school, government secondary school, Carol. I started with the students of about 7 of them when they came in their SS1, that is year 10. They came in, there were 7 of them, and I told them, in my classroom, I don't believe there are sinners. we are all sane, and I give you 100 in your character, we behave well, we do assignment on time. I mean, I give them positive rules, but not rules. I call it rules for no rules, strategy of classroom management. So I wanted to test that. So we were not given any rules, but we kept on growing together. We just believe we do our assignment, we do the right thing. And you know what? The more people join us, the more they understood the rules of the class, the more they adjusted to us. You know, the one person will join and then realize that everybody is submitting assignments on time, everybody is coming to class on time, everybody is keeping quiet. And you know what? That SS1H behaved very well. Now, while I was still nursing those ones and we're increasing in number, people are joining us, they were forming into the culture. I'm talking about people as element of culture, how you can form people in the culture of my class, my micro culture. They form into our culture over. Then I was asked to now take another class, SS1I. I students were about 40, and the class was already existing before I joined them. So invariably, they had already formed their own culture. By the time I joined them as a teacher, do you know my mistake? I told them also that, okay, I believe you are saints, you are good, you don't, do you know what? I learned the hard lesson of my life, because these people had already formed culture of not submitting assignment on time. They formed culture of frustrating teachers, they formed the culture of noise making, they formed the culture of coming late to class, they formed the culture of not buying textbooks. And I just went there to tell them they were good, whereas they had their own culture, and it became a battle between. So I was like, each student, the same commercial class, social science class, see how they are behaving well. And see this one. Now, the two differences is that the people I met in age, we a small community that formed a bigger community out of a culture. The ones I went to meet in I had already formed a culture. I found myself into their midst, and I was trying to introduce a new culture that never worked for them. And that is where we are going. So with people, okay, people are critical elements of a culture, and these are people in your classroom, people in your school, the school you find yourself. I mean, many of us teachers tend to have this problem. You find yourself in a new community, in a new school, and then because you are coming from one particular school, you believe the way they behave in my school is what I want to come and do here. Do you know what they will show you? They will say, hey, you want to come and change the way we do things? No. You hear this language that this is the way we have been doing it. We will get there how to handle this. You are bringing innovation, and you are going to not to throw it on people's head. They are waiting for you. So people also need to be respected. So consider that. The next thing is product. Every culture that has people tend to produce something. That is why you see that there is a sense of bigger culture in Africa. When a Nigerian or a Ghanaian or a Rwandan sing a song, we tend to flow in the same realm because we understand certain things. When I talk with my full mouth, without putting accent or pronunciation, no matter the language I'm speaking, you tend to understand me. So the products you are releasing are what is coming out of their culture, the art, the music, the literature, the food you eat, the clothes you wear. That's why some of us, when we find ourselves in a strange place, like let's say you find yourself outside the country during summer and you see people almost going naked, and you are coming from this part of the culture where you believe that you must clothe very well. You find it strange and you want to move away. You want to run out of where you are. So that's the product there. And then we have process. Okay. Now let's quickly go back to products now. So you find yourself in a classroom, there is a product that they produce in the class, and that could be maybe noise making, that could be a form of quietness, that could be the way they write on the board. Okay, that could be the way they welcome their teacher, that becomes a product. So for instance, now I am in a school where the student will only stand and say, "Good morning, sir." I think that's the only thing they do. Yeah, that's I can remember now. My student will only stand and say, "Good morning, sir." That's their product. That's their way of greeting. Then I get to a particular school, maybe a big private school, where they now say, "Good morning, sir. You are welcome to this particular class. This is the name of our class." And then they use about 2 to 3 minutes to greet. So you is a bit strange because you quickly want to jump into your lesson. But here now they are greeting you. So that becomes their own identity, the way they do things differently. So that's product. Then process is also similar to product, but I'm going to link process and perspective together quickly. That's what I didn't put on the screen here. Process and perspective. The way they see life determines the way they do things. The way they see life determines the way they do things. So, and every child in your class is coming from a cultural background. He's seeing life in a very different way, and is going to be acting in a very different way. Now, let me give an example. A man told a story on Facebook. I don't know whether we saw that advert, where he failed American embassy visa application for about 4 or 5 times. Why? He said in his culture, The process of showing that you are respectful, you honor people, is to look down. Is to look down. Unfortunately, to an American, I want to believe that that is not the case. You should be able to look eyeball to the person you are talking to, and then smile, and then engage confidently, quote and unquote. But to him, you look down to respect. So he will go to American embassy for interview, and they will be asking him person, and they will be looking down to respond, and they will slam him either blue paper today or yellow tomorrow. He never got the white. I mean, I don't know whether it's applicable like that in every country, but in Nigeria, when you are given white in the American embassy, you know what it means. When you have blue and other colors, it means come back again. So it kept on failing like that until he learned that, oh, to an American, you need to look eyeball to eyeball and communicate with. But to a Nigerian, to probably Yoruba man, an African, maybe, it means a form of respect when you look down, and especially as a child, when you don't look eyeball to people when they are talking to you. That's a process. That becomes our tradition, our ritual, and the way we see life. That's our perspective there. I believe I'm making sense. I want to come around to quickly check, because I say I can't see everybody. So let me see if I'm making sense. Thank you very much. Oh, I feel love. Let me run away. This is overwhelming. All right, let me go back to my screen quickly. All right, so let's move on to what we now call cultural intelligence. So I haven't understood the background of culture. What do we now call cultural intelligence? As a teacher, this is, you cannot play, you can't joke with this. You must be culturally intelligent, and it has a different, one simple definition. Remember that the child in your class is coming from a micro culture that the parents are taught in a particular way. You know, when I was growing up, my mother used to sell gari. That is, I'm trying to translate it, but you know what gari is, right? Cassava flakes, as they call it, but that's not cassava flakes anyway. I don't know. It's gari. That's the name in my culture. Maybe to make it better, it's cassava flake as they call it. But I think gari is more like an African term now. Okay. And then some other flowers around. Do you know, I thought that we were the only one in the entire Lagos state that knew gari existed. I mean, that's my street. And then maybe to the extension of other street, because that's my perspective. Okay. Until one day I started moving around, I discovered that the same about we eat in my house, they eat it elsewhere too. Okay. Now let's go to cultural intelligence quickly. What is cultural intelligence? Which is called cultural IQ, which is CQ. Now you understand, cultural quotient, yes. Is an ability, your own ability as a person to interpret an unfamiliar or ambiguous gesture in the same way the owner of that gesture will interpret it. I believe you get me now. You are enter your classroom, and the student over time start behaving somehow, and you're able to see the reason why they are behaving like that, not because they are rude, not because they don't welcome you, not because they overlove you, but because that is their culture. Let me tell an example. I think that thing is already flowing into every part of the world now. I learned that in India. I read it in a book. I don't know how to. When I was in India, I didn't see that. I learned that in India, when you tell, if I tell Mr. Patrick now that, Mr. Patrick, I like your face cap. So Mr. Patrick, when I come to Ibadan, you're giving me a face cap, right? Mr. Patrick, I like your face cap. And when I go to Kano, Patrick is in Kano. Smart is in Ibadan. When I say, Mr. Patrick, I like your face cap, I'm not saying I like it and it's a compliment for you and you say thank you. It means give me. It's an indirect way of begging for it. Okay? Now, imagine you're a teacher in the classroom and you have a pen that is good, fine, and you are using it to write. And a student walks up to you from that type of culture and says, Mr. Olasunkanmi, I like your pen. And you say thank you. You know that boy is likely to interpret to mean that you are stingy. Okay, now let's flip the table. You see a fine pen in the hand of a pupil in your class. And you say, hey, hi, Sam, I like your pen. And the boy looks at you, they have that when somebody says he likes your thing, you just need to give it to the person. And then the boy gives you his pen one day and say, no, you don't need to give me. Or he gives you and you feel like, oh, thank you, you collect it. Now the boy will see you as covetous or longer throat, quote and unquote. Imagine the boy is eating, say, I like your food, it's fine, or the aroma. And it means come and join me, and then you start eating. So they tend to misinterpret things like that. But your ability to understand that, oh, this person must have been coming from a different culture, and I need to also understand it as if you are the person, is what we call cultural IQ. And it's important for you to have this. And that is why I'm laying a very strong background here. So why is it necessary for you to have cultural IQ? I'm going to be fast a little bit. It helps you for cultural awareness. For cultural awareness. So it's a term in where you You understand the different cultures, recognizing their values, beliefs, just recognize this at the level of recognition, this very basic level. You know your own value, you are not losing your value. At the same time, you also recognize other people's value. Let's also be mindful that culture at times also goes along with our religion. Is with our religion. So awareness of who you are. I found myself in a knot for the first time in my life, and then there was this particular boy we met on the street, a student in one of our top schools there, but we just met him on the street. Very intelligent young chap. You know, that's my first time in the north. So my orientation started changing about an average northerner that we compared to what I used to know before. So this boy, I mean, impressed me very well. And I said, okay, we'll come and greet you the second day. That's how we went. He described his house. We just knocked and then we entered into this compound. I mean, somebody should be thanking God for my life right now. You know, I entered the compound, we saw some ladies, young ladies, young married ladies, you know, with hijab and everything covering them, but their faces were showing, praying, trying to do ablution. And as soon as they saw us, just stood up and they were shouting, God separate me and the devil. What's that? No, not a the lie. Whoever can help me with that, when you mean that God should separate you and devil.
Auzu billahi minash shaitani rajim.
Thank you, man. That was it. House to be like, and then they were withdrawing into their various rooms. So me and my friend, we didn't know. But thank God, because I'm from Lagos State, you know, Islam is a little bit mixed also well with Christianity. We did so many things together. So I translated what it means to say house to be like. Because in Yoruba we'll say Olorun Yami Yeshu. Because I quickly remember that one. And I told Tunji that Tunji, we're in a wrong place. And I took him, we went out. When we got outside, we met someone who narrated us. We said, God saved you. Let the husband catch you. You guys will face the Jamila or something. And you will explain what you were looking for, young couples. So, because we're not culturally aware, and that take us to the next one, which is cultural sensitivity. You now need to understand their own bias. The bias, that's cultural sensitivity now. Their bias is that no man should see my wife. Okay, so we're not aware, so it may not to be insensitive, but you just need to realize, and that may happen in your classroom. You may find yourself in a classroom where the students just need to sit boys separate from girls. You must be sensitive not to say everybody mix together, mix together. If you're not looking for trouble, you must understand that maybe in their classroom they don't talk anyhow in their culture. You need to understand all these things. Okay, you must understand why a particular boy is talking and is shouting, and why one is not talking and not speaking out loud to you. All these things are the things you want to be sensitive of under cultural sensitivity. And the last one, which is cultural IQ, is cultural competence. And I'm going to tell you a story in this cultural competence also. This involves effectively communicating and interacting with people from diverse backgrounds, building relationship and promoting inclusivity. Let me tell you another story that happened to me in Abuja. I've told this story before somewhere. It's on my Facebook some years back. I was in a bus. So two things about me. If I'm not driving, then I would use the regular e-taxis like Bolt and what's it called, Uber. So, but this particular day, the cost was so high. Moving from area 1 to Babalada was something that I couldn't really afford. And I felt, okay, let me just do public. So I got direction from people. Now, I'm not doing, I don't do public transport because I don't really know my direction. So I had to call friends. They told me, okay, go to area 1, area 3, you enter Babalada. For those who don't understand Abuja very well. Sorry my story, please, but you'll enjoy it. So I entered this, and then they told me I should ask the driver his last bus stop. Please mark that word, last bus stop. You are Africans, we are religious people. So I now asked the driver when we moved a little bit that from afar, I sat at the back. I said, driver, it's a bus of about 18 seaters. Driver, where is your last bus stop? This guy got angry. I don't have last bus stop. Just tell me exactly where you are going. And I was like, wait, how come? You don't, everybody in the bus understood except me. And I was like, how come you don't have last bus stop? I mean, innocently. I just said, just tell me where you are going. I said, okay, I'll be going to WIAC office or something like that. And I said, okay, when I get there, I will let you know. So it was much later I now realized that, oh, to him, last bus stop for him is the end of his life. To me, last bus stop is where I will just get off your bus and I will continue my own journey. So he realized that he didn't understand me and I didn't understand him too, and it almost led to a fight. But thank God I quickly understood him, and I smiled at a particular point, and I didn't use the word last bus stop, and I told you, oh, sorry, I didn't mean your last bus stop in life. I mean where I could get off easily, then I move on. So cultural competence taught me that one quickly, that I don't need to fight the next person on the queue. If you are asking the person, are you the last person? I'm telling you, I'm not the last person in Jesus' name. You know, or you are in an elevator and you're asking them, are you going down? I say, no, I'm not going down. You know, that way that I'm going up. You know, all those things. So you must be culturally competent and don't see it as reason why you should fight the next person. All right, and the same thing too for your colleagues in school and to your students in the classroom. And then how do you improve your cultural intelligence? Don't worry, we are going to have with affect education. I'll rush through this now. Become aware of your own relative bias. Know that you are biased too. Everybody is a product of a culture. I am biased in my culture. For a long time, I wouldn't wear anything other than suit and tie. But staying in Abuja taught me to be wearing kaftan and cap. And you know what? I enjoy it. And I get accepted by so many people just because of that bias. That, okay, he dressed like us. I went for a project in Jigawa. I saw the picture 2 days ago and I said, wow, and no wonder they embraced me, even though they were not even ready to do what I wanted to do. But the way they treated me was so nice. If I had gone with my suit and tie, the way you are saying me this thing now, maybe they will have said, this white guy, you want to. So understand your own bias, understand the bias of people, and then take advantage of it and flow. It doesn't hurt you to do that. Understand the bias of your student too. Respect and value cultural differences too, please. It is not your culture, you don't need to insult it. No culture is superior to any other one. No culture, white or black, no culture is superior. And then be ready to adapt to accommodate cultural differences. Then I would skip cultural shock. When you see a new culture, these are the 4 phases you go through, and just talk through it briefly. You go through what's called the honeymoon stage, when they just welcome you facially. Then they start showing you their culture, you get frustrated. Gradually, human being, you adjust. Before you know it, acceptance level will come. So these are the 4 stages you go through quickly. And how do you adapt to a new culture? After now, I think we should enter into classroom culture now. The first one is knowledge about the culture, metacognitive. We are all black belts. We understand what metacognitive is. So the next one is metacognitive, when you think about thinking, when you are aware of the culture and you are now strategizing on how to relate with it. Except a culture that is very barbaric and is demanding the killing or all those things. It is just normal way of life, please. You just need to also understand how to strategize. Then you now start mimicking the culture, maybe by dressing like them. There is nothing you can do to people when you speak their language back to them. I have seen that play out easily. Ordinary Bruno Diaz, I want to say that in Spanish in those days. Ordinary common tapetu, just say it in a way, and then the French man will look at you and smile and say, because you want to be like them. Ordinary saying Inakwana has opened doors of favor for me in different places. Saying it properly, Inakwana, I say, are you a northerner? I say, no, I just understand that little one. And they say, come, let's teach you more. You understand? So you start mimicking them in a positive way, okay? Just to interpret their culture. And then you start gathering motivation to connect. And I'm saying, I want to spend time on this deliberately because this is what you are supposed to do in your classroom as a teacher when you find yourself in a multicultural environment. Okay, the cognitive level is the knowledge, the metacognition is strategy, the behavior is the mimicking, and then the motivation is you taking time to not be like them, emotional resilience to accept them. So now let's go. Why do we need to be culturally competent in our classroom? We are preaching equity and access to complete knowledge. If you are not culturally competent, you are going to block a student from learning in your class. I can imagine what happens to those Omomola that we were calling in those days in the classroom, how difficult it was for them to learn because our wahala was too much, our problem was too much on them. You can imagine you finding yourself in a totally different culture, how gentle suddenly you will become. I don't know whether you know me as an extrovert, but you know what? I believe I'm an introvert when I find myself in a very new environment and everybody is like that. But you know what? When the door of understanding my culture is open to me, I have this sense of equity that I am like everybody. So you need to create that sense of equity and access to knowledge, to education in your classroom. Culturally competent education ensures that all students have equal access to learning opportunities. Okay, so when you are culturally competent as a teacher, everybody in your class believe that they are one and you are not, there's nobody that is superior to another one. Now let's go to culture again in education. You know, there is this thing they say, high flyer, middle learner or something, and low flyer. You know that thing? It's still part of culture. So some schools actually believe that, okay, we need to keep the very intelligent students in one class, the very middle one in the middle class, and then the very low one in academically intelligent in another one. But a culturally competent school will not do that because you're only separating those students according to intellectual ability. What if we want to separate them according to sport or physique or age? Where do we put them? So a very sound teacher who understands what we call differentiated instruction very well will not use separation or segregation, but we'll be able to use 1, 2, 2 tools, 3 tools in the classroom, and everybody will be carried along effectively. That is my philosophy of a culturally competent educator who has the high flyer, low flyer, middle flyer in the classroom, and is able to use different tools, technology now, questioning method is one, peer-to-peer learning, and the rest to make learning equal such that no child is left behind. That is who we call a culturally competent student educator. Secondly, it fosters success. Understanding and respecting cultural difference allows educators to cater to students of diverse needs, promoting success in learning. Once there is equity, success is bound to happen in your classroom. So students will realize they will relax first. You know, some students are performing poorly in your classroom, not because they are not intelligent, but because you have not opened your arms to understand their culture and their thinking. Imagine a child, let's say it as a culture, that has a little level of neurological problem, where he or she is finding it difficult to study well. That's becoming like your class, suddenly we have a culture of one person who sleeps a lot in a class or who tends to have a level of seizure. You as a teacher must carry such a child along because everybody must carry along, no one must be left behind. And remember, a culturally competent teacher must produce global citizens. If you are biased in your classroom, you are bound to produce biased students. Many of us who are teachers, we are here now, especially from this part of the world. Let's say, let me just use Lagos State. I don't want to be overgeneralized. And we're flogged in the classroom. When you enter school as a teacher, do you remember that you want to start flogging them? Because the first point of call of an oppressed man, okay, is vengeance when it becomes successful. So in your classroom, remember that you are building global citizens. So you need to treat everybody equally in a very, understanding way, such that when they get to another culture, another world, they have that level of empathy to express to others. That's why it is good for you to be culturally competent. Exposure to diverse culture prepares students for globalized world, fostering understanding, appreciation, and appreciation of different perspectives. Something happened to me in India. I wore native and I put my cap. A typical northern man now. And these guys from the street started running after me, making jest of me. Do you know, for the first time, I got angry and I wanted to turn back. Even that I looked by and I saw that they were more than me. Maybe I would have turned back to a fight. Those were children that were not globally, they do not have that global citizenship orientation. Unlike when I was in the US, for instance, somebody saw me in my full Ankara and was shouting, "I love your fabric." He was driving and he had to slow down to shout, "I love your fabric." How do I feel? I felt accepted. So what happens in your classroom? What expression do you give when it comes to culture? I'm trying to rush towards the end. How does culture affect our teaching process? It affects your communication style. When you are communicating in the classroom, you need to understand that the world is changing and the world is becoming more diverse every day. Diversity is becoming a thing you need to understand. I was in Adamawa years back, and I saw a student putting on green beret, a male student putting on green beret, and I was like, "Why are you wearing beret in the class?" Because as a Lagosian, or somebody from the West, is a woman that put on all those beret, except you're a policeman or. So I didn't take it to. So my communication to him was, I saw him as somebody else. Like, why did you collect the girl's cap? Now explain to me, he's a prefect, and that is it. So my communication had to change immediately. That, okay, no, I need to just talk in a different way. So different culture may have unique communication pattern, which affect how students interact with teachers and peers. Now, another thing, example, I was in a school and something happened. And one of the students told me to do something. A year 7 student, a year 1 student walked up to me and said, "Mr. Olasunkanmi, we want you to do this for us." And I promised I would do it. And this girl looked at me, I bought to her and said, "If you don't do it, what should we do to you?" Hello, teachers. Now, if you check this culture I'm talking about, this is a culture that believes that their children can speak up. But for my own culture, you dare not talk to me like that. I'm not your mate. You understand? But I had to look at the girl again. Don't worry, and I smiled. By the time I understood their culture, that is the way they communicate with them. It is not an insult. It is just a way they relate. This is a culture where they stretch hands to you to greet you, to handshake you. I'm talking about a culture where students will prostrate and greet you. Finally, in communication, another example. Our time is fast spent. Another example in communication, let me just say this. I had to take my son out of the school because of poor communication of the teacher. What happened? They were teaching social study and we were looking at how they respect in different culture. And come and see how this woman from another culture presented my Yoruba culture. He said, Yoruba people are fond of rolling on the floor when they want to greet. They are fond of what? Rolling on the floor. That's how my son came to the house that he doesn't want to be a Yoruba again. You can imagine, man, loss of identity. I just said, don't worry. I understood what happened. After the end of that session, I just took him away. They called me and I said, no, nothing happened. It's because of traffic. I wasn't ready to go into conversation with anybody. I wouldn't be able to train you. You are doing your lesson in another way. So communication matters when you are teaching in class, or else you are going to lose your students. Learning may not take place in the classroom. Learning preferences too. It affects the student learning preferences. Some students actually prefer to learn by seeing things. It may be from their culture, from their own personal culture. Some want to learn by hearing. Some want to learn by standing up and walking to you because their mother in the house always call them to the kitchen to come and be part of the cooking. And yet you are now teaching on the board, you ask him to sit down there and he doesn't see any reason why he should sit down. He wants to be part of the learning. He wants to come and write on the board. So you need to understand all these different kinds of learning preferences. And finally, classroom dynamics. School education happens to be the only thing in the world that I've noticed, though, that have not really changed for over 200 years, especially in our structure of sitting down. We tend to sit down and face the board. Everybody, proscenium stage, if I'm correct with that statement, facing the board afar off. But you need to create a level of dynamism to also accommodate our own culture there, where you make your class a little bit dynamic, change your style a little bit, introduce different forms of it to it there, then your teaching process will just be a little bit unique. So look into your classroom dynamics and then fall into it. So what is the implication for us as teaching and the process? Of course, it will affect our instructions. You agree with me? It can also affect our classroom management. I've talked about that one a lot. So you, math teacher, classroom management is everybody must keep quiet and listen to you. So me as an English language teacher, my students must talk. If you are not talking, I'm not going to teach you. You must respond. To me as an educator, for instance, my students must dance and shake and then sing out in the classroom. And to the economics teacher who is trying to teach them the theory of Adam Smith, we are disturbing the other class. So your classroom management must also take into consideration the people's culture and your environment too. Then your kind of assessment too must also be culturally sensitive. You don't want to assess somebody that is fond of only writing story in a way that is different. I mean, you just want to understand that one. You know, your assessment should just be culturally sensitive. There are some questions you don't ask in your classroom when you are culturally sensitive. In some culture, they don't eat snake. You don't want to use a comprehension passage where they say they are eating snake, then it becomes a problem. Okay. In some culture, they can write a comprehension passage and they are insulting the government there. If you try it in some places, you as a teacher, you lose your job. So you want to understand all this in your classroom. And we just want to just briefly look at low and high context. Let's just quickly compare these two types of culture that we have, that you are likely to have in your class. In a low context culture, communication is explicit and direct. They face you and tell you. In a high context where respect is everything, they use body language to tell you everything. Non-verbal cues is what they use. Emphasis on verbal communication and clear instruction in is a low context. They just go straight to the point and tell you. I don't want to use an example that's coming to my mouth now. Let's skip it. Then in a high context case, emphasis on social harmony and subtle cues. So you now find that, okay, a particular student does not find it easy to do collaborative work in your classroom. I encourage the particular teacher that, no, use collaboration in your class. And the teacher came back to me that the particular boy said he's not interested in working with everybody. You want to know why he's not interested, and then if you are going to make him interested, you need to also understand where he's coming from. So that takes us to the next one, which is individualism and personal responsibility. I learned that in the US, if you are my brother, my younger brother, and I mean, I have my family, my wife and my children, and then you are just my brother, my extended family, and you are living on the street, that is your own problem. I think that is true. But in Nigeria or in Africa, you are ashamed to the family because we believe in collectivism and harmony. But so imagine a child coming from such an, it feels like, okay, I just want to walk alone without interacting with anybody. And then finally, because our time is up, this particular story, I'm going to leave it here on the screen for us to read. It's a challenge that a Nigerian teacher who is in Rwanda went through. Oh, I don't know. Let me quickly check if I have 1 minute to read it. Uh, oh, okay. Let me just quickly read the story. I can see Fatima already. That's I can see that eyes means that my time is up. Interestingly.
No, read it, read it. Go ahead,
Uh,
enjoy it, read
all
it.
right, thank you very much, ma. All right, so let's quickly see this case study. This is the story of a friend of mine in Rwanda. I recently experienced what I call language shock. While teaching in a school with students from diverse cultural and linguistic backgrounds, in Nigeria, when I teach math, I ask students to show their workings. So when I gave this instruction to my grade 7 class during a lesson on forces, a student from the US raised her hand and confused and asked, Mr. David, what are you saying? I repeated, not realizing the issue. Thankfully, an American English teacher was present for peer observation, and the student asked her whether it should be show your workings or show your work. Can you see? Just ing is just causing problem here. Cultural shock. It turns out in the US, it is show your work. I adjusted, but later I asked, he adjusted, and then later in the class, he now asked students, submit your work. The same student was confused again and raised her hand. He said, hand in your work, you mean, of course. She then jokingly expressed her frustration, saying that my British English was messing with her brain. That is the man's English, now it's British English basically, is messing with this American girl's brain. I explained to both the student and the English teacher that British influence, British influence shaped our language in Nigeria. While my words were correct, they sounded different to Americans. In the end, it was a learning experience for all of us. So you also want to be sensitive to your choice of words in the classroom. All right, so I'm going to stop here, and I hope I'll be able to play the game I want to play, but if there's no time, no problem. It's a wonderful time. So basically, the summary of this presentation today is you just have to be very sensitive to your class, and a cultural competent teacher is the 21st century teacher. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Olasunkanmi. That was very informative, very interesting, of course. Thank you very much. Yes, there is so much that as educators we need to learn and unlearn in our day-to-day jobs. And yes, we do need to be culturally aware, culturally sensitive. Language that you spoke about just now. There's so many words that there is one word in American English and another word in British English, and yet they're talking about the same object or the same item. So we really do need to be aware of how things are said and different people's cultures. Thank you very much. In the chat, I think there are some questions. So you can unmute if you want to talk. I think Memunat Mohammed raised her hand. Memunat Mohammed, you can speak. Go ahead. Memunat Mohammed, are you with us? Okay. Can you, Mr. Olasunkanmi, can you open the chat? Can you see the chat, or you want me to open it and read?
There are no questions here.
Sorry?
But there are no questions here. Sefinat is appreciating amazing and relent too. Thank you. ACN is saying thank you so much, Mr. Olasunkanmi. It's such an interesting and eye-opening session. Thank you so much, SN.
Okay, all right. They're just compliments. That's good. Just compliments. Just compliments. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Right. The only person that puts her hand up, I can't get a response.
Okay, I can see.
Now, Aziz Ojoro, name pronunciation as well. I mean, you gave a good example. He's always correcting me. Maybe one day I'll get it right. Yeah, that is also yeah. Sorry, Aziz. What's the correct pronunciation?
It's Ojoro, ma.
Ojoro. Okay.
Yes, soft day, Irole, Ojoro.
Okay, Ojoro.
Yes.
Okay, okay. I used to think rain fell Ojoro, but Ojoro. Okay.
Ojoro. Ojoro.
Ojoro, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
intonation in Yoruba as well is another cultural thing. Anyway, go ahead, Aziz.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Opeifa, for a wonderful presentation. My question goes thus: if we are supposed to respect cultural differences in our classrooms, and when we talk about multicultural education, we respect the cultural differences. But as a teacher, if you find yourself in a situation where something is against your own culture and what you have to teach, you find yourself in a situation where what you are about to teach is somehow in conflict, because we were taught, I could recall the time that they're doing the induction, TRCN induction at Unilag a long time ago. We were told to swear an oath. Part of the content of that oath was that we are not supposed to influence what we are teaching our students with our own personal beliefs. So we are just going there to teach the spirit behind the content and the content itself to our learners. But when you find yourself in a dilemma where
I
what
get
you
you.
want
Yeah,
to teach,
yeah.
so how do you handle such situation? Thank you.
Okay. After Mr. Opeifa, I'd like to say something about that too. Yeah.
Maybe I should allow you to talk, right, Fatima?
Okay. So I understand perfectly what you're saying. So, for example, I am a practicing Muslim, but I am working in a church school, and now it is Christmas. We have to prepare them for the Christmas play, the Christmas nativity. I still do it because that doesn't change my own belief. It doesn't change my own faith. And I know that this is something they do. And also, we do have some commonalities in Christianity and Islam. We do believe that Jesus was a prophet, but then maybe we differ on whether he's the son of God or he's not the son of God. But I know that working in a Christian school means that sometimes I have to teach things relating to that faith and even other faiths, because when we do RE in the UK, we have to teach Hinduism, Judaism, Christianity. That does not make me a Christian. It doesn't make me a Hindu. It doesn't make me a Jew. But as a teacher in a primary school, I have to teach all subjects. I cannot say that I am not okay. I'm coming to your school, but I will not teach RE because I'm a Muslim. So and like you said, we do not impact our own faith on them. I cannot go to them and when we're talking them about Islam and say all of you should now become Muslim. So I know what is in my heart and my faith is in my heart, and I am telling them, and they can see from my appearance that I am not a Christian. I do not follow that religion, but I still have to prepare them for what they call nativity play and Christmas play and all that. That is my experience. So, Mr. Sukomi, that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I mean that's just the answer to it, and to just add to it, except what you are asked to do is totally morally inappropriate. If it is content you want to teach, anybody can teach it, and it's a content you are teaching. I mean, just like the example she gave now, I currently taking a task with a Christian school here, and this particular guy just came in with Jalamia. I mean, it's a Christian school. Came in Jalamia because he's taking RS today, and he wants to talk about what do you call it now? This part of Saudi Arabia, the movement of Prophet Muhammad from one place to another, from Mecca to Medina. In RS, he wanted to teach that how to walk around the rock, is it called Kaaba or something? All those things there. And you know what? This is a pastor. Ordinarily, he wore Jalamia, something to represent the religion, put on the cap, and took the students out, got extra 2 more Jalamia for them to wear, and they went to walk around a particular rock in the school. It's a Christian school, I must tell you. Walk around the school because they are going to write IGCSE in exam, and then we are teaching cultural tolerance. Damaris, thank you for that language. So cultural awareness, you are aware of your culture. You are not losing your own self. Fatima is not losing her culture. For instance, I'm a typical Christian in a very interesting way. Hakim is our brother, And would I say that, okay, because Akim is a Muslim, for instance, now we shouldn't work together? I mean, we will not have achieved so many things that we are achieving today if everybody wants to go by way of culture. But when what they ask you to do is totally different, you may not know what, but there is no content of the curriculum that will ask you to teach something that is illegal or that is morally not right. Now, let's talk about you swearing. Where you talk about swearing, you are given that moral laxity to keep your mouth mum instead of this saying, because you are swearing in the midst of, like, let's say 1,005 people. Nobody knows whether you are reading anything out or not. Nobody is coming to you. Jehovah's Witnesses actually don't read national anthem. Nobody cares about them. When they don't read national anthem, nobody is flogging them. They used to harass them in those days, but we have given them their own right that no. So for the whole thing, of course, nobody will come after you that you are not swearing the oath. You are not. So, except where it is totally wrong, which is, I believe, no content we ask you to do that. You can teach the content, explain the content, and then go. I remember years back when I was in Adamawa, we were doing what's this thing they call PETs for HIV and the rest. And we're taught to teach the students that one of the ways of preventing pregnancy is to use condoms, to use this, to do that. I said I wasn't going, but you know what? That was the content we had to teach eventually in biology. So it is you that will now know how to teach it and how to introduce the moral part of it. For that one, that has to do a little bit with moral. Other than that, we just need to be tolerant enough to flow and accept others. I believe we've been able to handle that gray area very well together this night.
Yes,
thank you,
good
Mr.
question, Aziz. Okay. Anybody else with any other questions? Okay, it's 10 past our time already. It was a very, very interesting session. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. I hope we have all learned something, and we will try to show equity in our teaching and learning to include everybody, every culture, every race, every color, everything that we have. Oh yeah, one more thing that in my experience in Nigeria that I wanted to talk about, and I would like maybe teachers to also. There is this thing in that we have, we call it colorism, that if you are dark, you are ugly. If you are fair, you are beautiful. And a lot of girls were facing this issue. Oh, she's so dark. Oh, she's so black. Even within our own African culture, this is not black and white. This is within the Black African society. We need to stop this. We need to let our young girls know that whatever color they are, whatever shade of black they are beautiful. So that's one thing I just wanted to add at the end, that there's also this form of colorism and thing about dark not being beautiful that I thought I should mention. So if anybody else doesn't have anything else to say, we shall call it a day. Oh, Sanusi Maruf, speak. Sanusi Maruf.
Good evening, Ma, and good evening to our able facilitator for that wonderful session. I really enjoyed the session. So what I just want to say is that being culturally sensitive teacher is very key, most especially in this 21st century. In Nigeria, we all know that we have so many things we are sensitive about. That when you are out of the country and you are able to elsewhere, that is when you will know the importance of this being culturally sensitive teacher. For instance, now where I teach, we have up to like 57 nationalities. And in that school, we have been told that if student didn't greet you, it's not a problem. They can play their hair, the boys. They can do all sorts of things. And if you want to work in that school, you have to abide with all the, cultures that is happening there. For instance, now we have a student from India also. And in the class, student club to play, to do all sorts of things. There is child. When they move closer to her, she always runs away. She runs away. And always, what's the issue? So the management, the school has to take her to another class where she was accommodated and accepted with her own culture, and gradually she's also adapting to the system. So I just want to tell us, I mean, in addition to what Mr. Opeifa said, that we need to be sensitive, especially when we're out of the country. We have many nationalities, they have their different ways to fly, they have their different ways of doing things. We need to learn more about this so that we can be able to work without any issue in such an environment. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. I think we need to round it up now. Nearly 15 minutes past. Thank you everyone for joining. Next week we have a section about safeguarding and child protection with Mary Akach. I will be posting more information about that on our WhatsApp group, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Have a great evening. Take care. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much,
Mr.
ma'am.
Olasunkanmi.
Thank you, Mr. Opeifa.
Thank you so much. Good to have everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.